Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name's Erica and today we're going to talk about all the books I read in the first half of April. So I had a really great first half of the month. I had mostly 4 and 5-star books. And if you saw my 5-star predictions video that I posted a couple weeks ago, I talked about how I have only had a few 5-star reads for the year. So I had 2 new 5-star reads this month. So that is amazing. And I'm really happy with that. I feel like I had been kind of slumpy, not slumpy as in not reading, but slumpy as in just not enjoying what I was reading really. So having new 5 stars is just really exciting for me. So let's jump into the books that I read this month. I read 8 books. The first book I read in the month of April was The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. So Riley Sager is a really prominent thriller author. I feel like I've never read anything by them before. So this is my first one. And I ended up giving it 3 stars. This book follows a famous actress who is staying at her family's lake house in Vermont because her husband had passed away on that lake. He drowned, and she was not taking it well and she was drinking a lot, and her mother is also a famous actress. So she sends her to that lake house to get her act together, basically. And so she's there, she's still drinking, she's not doing what she's supposed to be doing, and she notices across the lake that someone new has moved in. So she starts kind of spying on them, and then she notices some weird things start to happen from across the lake, and she takes it upon herself to look into it. And the first half of this book was really strong. Then it took a turn that I do not traditionally love in thrillers. So that really brought my enjoyment down. There's a particular plot device used that I just really don't like. And I think some people really like it, so they would love this book, and some people don't like it. And I'm being vague because it's a spoiler. But yeah, that aspect of the book I really didn't like. So the last chunk of the book and the way it ended did not work for me at all. But the first half of the book I really liked, and I was definitely invested. I wanted to know what was happening. Our narrator is a little unreliable. Like I said, she's a heavy drinker, and you don't really know if what she's seeing is true or if it's just her state of mind or what is going on. So yeah, I feel like overall, Riley Sager is an author that I would check out again, but this particular one didn't work for me because of that aspect. And I kind of think that he uses that aspect a lot. So we'll see if I read more from them in the future. But this was just a good, fun read. I like thrillers a lot. They're really good palate cleansers for me because they're fast-paced, and it kind of gets me excited to read again. I also read the whole Caraval trilogy this month. So right after The House Across the Lake, I read Caraval. And then right after Caraval, I read Legendary. And then I took a little break and I read this finale a few books later. But I'm going to talk about them all right now. So Caraval is really hard to explain, I feel like. So Caraval follows 2 sisters. I think they're 17, 18, that age range. And they live in this world where there's a bunch of islands. And their father rules one of the islands, and he does not let them leave the island at all. And he is very abusive and not nice at all. So we start off following Scarlett, which is one of the sisters, and she is set to be married to someone from a different island. She's never met him before, but she has written letters back and forth to him, and her father has kind of arranged this marriage. And we meet Scarlett's sister, Donatella. And Donatella is a bit more wild than Scarlett is. She likes to break the rules a little bit. And Scarlett has been writing letters to this man named Legend who runs this game called Caraval. And Caraval is not like a carnival, really. That's what I thought. I had heard it compared to Hunger Games Meet the Night Circus before, so I thought it was going to be more of a circus. It's really not. It's more so of a magical game. So if that's turning you off from this book because you don't like circus, carnival type things, it's not really like that. It does have the tiniest aspect of it, but it's more so just a magical game. So anyways, Carnival is this magical game that gets held every single year, and Scarlett has always been obsessed with Carnival. She loves the idea of it. Her grandmother has told her so many stories about Legend and Carnival, and she just really loves it. So she writes to Legend all the time asking to just go to one of his carnivals. Legend finally writes back and sends her 2 tickets. So that Scarlett and Donatella end up leaving the aisle with a merchant that's there to go to Carnival, and he brings her to Carnival, and from there just a bunch of stuff happens. It's a magical game. It can be really brutal sometimes. I mean, this is a YA book, so it's not like that brutal, but it can get pretty brutal, and it was really interesting and just really entertaining. I have heard not so great things about this series, so I was a little bit intimidated to go into it. I didn't think I would love it, but I actually really did enjoy it. And everyone just says that the spin-off series to this is so much better, and like you can just skip this series altogether. And while I haven't read the spin-off series yet, and I don't know if that's true or not, I don't necessarily think that you should skip this because I thought it was a lot of fun and I really liked it. This first book I gave 4 stars. Then the second book, which is Legendary, we're actually following a different character, and you still see Scarlett a ton in that book. And I don't want to tell you who the second character is that we're following in this book because I feel like it's kind of a spoiler, but we are following a second character in this book, and I just really enjoyed following this character. I still gave it 4 stars, and yeah, it was just really fun where you kind of do go through like another Carnival in this. The romance in this book, I forgot to mention that there is romance in this series. So we follow Scarlett and she has a romance in that book, and it was cute and I really enjoyed it. This romance though, I really love. One thing I love about this series is that there is a lot of morally gray characters, and that is my favorite thing. So yeah, we have plenty of those in these series, and I definitely loved the romance in this one, and it was a really great time. I gave this one 4 stars too. So Finale, I would say was my least favorite of the series, but I still gave it 4 stars. If I had to rate them, it would be Legendary, Carnival, and then Finale. But yeah, it was still really great. It was a great finale. In this book, we're following both of the characters. So we take turns. Each chapter kind of alternates between the 2 point of views that we had in the first 2 books. So I liked that aspect kind of got switched up a little bit and made the series feel like fresh and not repetitive. But yeah, we kind of have a continuation of the romances in this book. There's a bit of a love triangle thrown in for both of the characters in these books. So if that's something you don't like, then you might not enjoy that. But I thought it was fun and I really liked it. And yeah, overall, I just really like this series, and I cannot wait to read the spin-off series to this. I know the first one is Once Upon a Broken Heart, I think, and the next one is The Ballad of Never After. I'm probably going to pick those up first thing in May because I am just very excited. If everyone says that that series is so much better than this series, I'm excited because overall, I gave the whole series 4 stars. I gave each book 4 stars, so it was definitely a win. Next, I read the Buddy Read this month with Victoria and Autumn. I will link their channels down below. This month was Autumn's pick, and she picked When Ashes Fall by Marnie Mann. I was very excited when she picked this because I have been wanting to pick up Marnie Mann for a while, and I haven't. And I didn't know anything about this book going in, and I'm so glad I didn't know anything about this book going in because it's a little bit of a like romantic suspense, so it made it just more interesting in my opinion. So I'm going to give you a vague synopsis. This is following our main character. She has had a traumatic accident happen. You don't know what, but it's clear that it happened. And I think it was only like a couple years prior. So she is now working as a 911 operator. Previously, she was an EMT, but you kind of get hints that like that is part of her trauma as being an EMT. So she's a 911 operator. It's her first like couple days back to work, and she is struggling. And then you get another POV from a boy named Dylan, and this is in the past, and it is their romance together. And then you get a third POV from another character in the present. And it kind of flops back and forth between past with Dylan and then present with her and this other character that's in the past. And this other character that's in the present timeline. And it was actually really easy to follow, and I listened to the audiobook. It was very short, and sometimes with audiobooks I can get a little confused when we have different POVs and past and present timelines. That can get confusing on audio, but this was not confusing at all. It was very easy to follow, and overall I really liked the story. We're kind of working up to what happened because it's very clear in the book that something happened to Dylan and that our main female character is working through this and she is, not doing so great. I would definitely check your trigger warnings for this if you need to do that, because there are quite a few, and this is a really emotional book. I ended up giving it 4 stars. My only critique of this book is that Dylan which is her love interest in the past, is kind of unlikable. And I don't think he was supposed to be, but that's how he came off. And it did kind of make the ending feel less impactful, in my opinion. I feel like the ending had potential to be even more emotional and hard-hitting. And for me, it was just lacking a little bit, especially considering the subject matter that this book is about. I feel like it could have hit a little bit harder. That would be like my only critique, is that I wanted to feel more heartbroken about the fact that like she is grieving for this past relationship that she had. I wanted to feel a little bit more torn up about the fact that she would be moving on with somebody else, but I didn't really feel that much because I didn't love Dylan as a character. So yeah, but overall this book was really good. It was a really short read. I definitely recommend it if you like this kind of book. I think Marnie Mann did an awesome job, and I cannot wait to read more books from her in the future. Next, I read The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. I've heard a lot of people say Poston, but the audiobook said Poston, so I'm going to say Poston. Ashley Poston. This, I feel like everyone knows what this is about. This is about a girl who can see ghosts. She grew up in a funeral home. Her dad was a funeral director, and she grew up in that, and she has always been able to see ghosts. So she's also a ghostwriter for a really famous like Nora Roberts type author. And she goes to her editor, and she is supposed to have her manuscript done, and it is not done, and he's pissed. So he kind of reams her out, and then later on in the book, they have like a drunken makeout session, and then she finds out that her father has died. So she has to fly back to her hometown, which she hasn't been back in like 10 years because of something that happened there. So she flies back there, and she's helping with the funeral arrangements for her dad, when all of a sudden they get a knock on the door, and she goes to answer it, and it's her editor, but he is now a ghost. So ghosts typically come to her because they need help moving on, and she ends up trying to help him with this, and while she's helping him with this, they end up kind of forming a romantic relationship. And I thought this was really, really good. This is a traditionally published book. Typically, I don't love traditionally published romances, but I actually really enjoyed this, so I was pleasantly surprised. I thought it was really cute. My only critique would be that it just felt very predictable what was going to happen, but I also can't picture the book ending in any other way. So I'm glad that it went in the direction it went. But yeah, overall, it was just a really, really cute romance, and I really enjoyed it. It was something different, and I hadn't read anything like it before, and I'm glad I read it. Okay, now we have my 5-star read that I had this month, and that is The Summer We Fell by Elizabeth O'Roark. I am not surprised this was a 5-star at all, because I love Elizabeth O'Roark, and this was pitched as like super angsty, and I love angst, and it definitely was angsty. So this is following our main character. I think her name is Juliet. It also is past and present timelines. So Juliet in the past is taken in by this pastor and his family because she had a really bad home life and some things happened to her. So they end up taking her in, and she forms a relationship with their son, and they're in a relationship together, and his parents really just see them like getting married right out of high school and having a family, her being, involved in the church and a stay-at-home mom, and like they don't really put much more thought into her life other than her role as their husband's wife, basically. And her boyfriend has a friend named Luke who also has a troubled past, so they take him in every summer, and Luke and her boyfriend are really good friends. So anyways, we in the past see Luke and Juliet like not really liking each other, but slowly over time they start to form a friendship. Luke sees her as more than just a woman in the kitchen cooking and cleaning who's gonna get married and have his friends' babies. He sees her as who she is. She's a really good singer. He believes in her music. and he sticks up for her time and time again. So we have that past timeline. In the present timeline, we follow Juliet, and she is now a famous singer, and Luke is a famous professional surfer. And so they're coming back to the hometown because, what is his name? I need to figure out his name. I can't remember Juliet's boyfriend's name, and she is younger, but they're coming back because his mom is starting a like foster home for kids that, you know, need it. And Juliet and Luke are coming to like help her open that. And it's very clear that something happened to Juliet's boyfriend when they were younger. And you don't really know what that is, but you know that he's no longer alive. So the past timeline, we are definitely working up to like what happened. It's definitely a mystery, and I did not see it coming, what happened. And so in the future, we have Luke and Juliet fighting their feelings for each other because Luke was her boyfriend's friend, and they definitely feel guilty about it. But you just see them fighting their attraction over and over again and it not really working. And yeah, so you see that happen. And then the past timeline, you see them also start to build their relationship up. And there is cheating in this, just a fair warning if you don't like that. But yeah, I really loved this story. It was emotional. It took me by surprise. I feel like the last fourth of this book was so amazing. The first 3/4 were like, I was leaning on a 4-star, but then the ending happened and I did not see anything coming. And I just really liked the way that it wrapped up and it ended. So I gave this a 5-star overall. Lastly, I read Never Lie by Frida McFadden. And this is a mystery thriller book about we follow past timelines again. We follow a psychologist who works with people that have like narcissists, psychopaths, like some people that have some really serious mental health problems, and she does some therapy in her home. And then in the future, we're following a couple who is trying to find a house together. So they go to look at this house out in the middle of nowhere, and their realtor hasn't shown up. There's a snowstorm, so they end up getting snowed in at this house. And this house is creepy, and things keep happening, and you find out that it's this psychologist who has gone missing's house. So that's kind of all I want to say with it. This book was very twisty, and I did not see most of the twists coming, which is really great because I feel like a lot of times I'm not surprised by twists in mystery thriller books anymore. But this one did surprise me quite a bit, and it was just really interesting. It was really fast paced, and it kept me on my toes the whole time. This also had some like really unreliable characters, and there's just a million possibilities running through my head of like what could have happened and what could happen to this psychologist and if she was even still alive or not. I can't wait to read more from this author because it was like an immediate 5-star, and I feel like it's really hard for me to give a thriller 5 stars, but this one, yeah, it was great. So definitely check this book out if you are a fan of that. I feel like this one was just really, really good. Those are all the books that I read in the first half of April. The second half of April, I really need to focus on my TBR that I had set because, as you can see, I've only read 3 books off of my 11-book TBR. So I need to focus solely on my TBR for the rest of the month. I still have all of these books to read, plus I'm currently reading A Strange Hymn, and I'm also reading A Pessimist's Guide to Love on my Kindle. So yeah, I still have all these to read. If there's one that I don't get to, because I have a feeling I might not get to them all, it will be my reread of A Court of Mist and Fury. But yeah, so that's the plan for the rest of the month. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!